surprises for the trickster. Surprises for the trickster. Small is usually the size of real life. Surprises, I've got surprises. Surprises for the trickster. I got surprises for the trickster. Small is usually the size of real life. Whoa.
Salam. This will be a quick video addressing and correcting the false claims made by YouTube username Oahspe101 on his video entitled Rebuttal, Ethiopianworldnet Gospel of Rastafari, and his Imperial Majesty Amharic Bible not Oahspe cult. In this video, he claims that the Bible is a so-called plagiarization of the Shumerian Tablets, which is a false claim. Now you state that the Bible doesn't have any ancient Egyptian connection to it. Is that right? The Bible doesn't have any ancient Egyptian connection to it. Is this right? Okay, let me show and prove to you. First, one must comprehend, though, the relationship between Egypt, Sumer, and the Hebrew connection, and understand that the Mesopotamians, which were an Ethiopic Cushitic branch of people, they called that land properly by the name of Shumeria, and the Sumerian or Shumerian creation legends or myths parallel that of the ancient Egyptians and Cushites or Ethiopians, Nubians. So yes, there are indeed similarities between the Sumerians and the Cushites and Egyptians, and it is because they both inhabited the Nile Valley. And as a matter of fact, the first group of Nile Valley and Indus Valley peoples who settled the Mesopotamian region around Iraq, Canaan, Arabia, who were an Ethiopic Cushitic branch of people, they were venerators of the nectar Shu, of the god Shu, who is an ancient Egyptian or Khamite nectar. Now we know that Shu was an ancient Khamite nectar, right? Okay then. And the Sumerians, falsely called, Sumerians as it was falsely called, originally known as Shumerians, named their civilization after the nectar of the ancient Kamites and Ethiopians named Shu, Lord of the Air. It was basically a twin city of Kemet. So Sumeria and Kemet were basically twin cities, and they were created, generated by the same progenitors of Nubia Kush. And it resembled Kemet in numerous areas. In the names of cities and towns, there was Anu, Mari, Ammon, Kush or Kish, Asur or Asar, and others. So when one does linguistic and etymological studies on these names, they can indeed see the similarities between the two. And just like the pharaohs of Nubia and Kemet, Sumer was also governed by divine leaders called En, which also were considered sons of the sun or sons of Anu. The Neteru of Sumer were called Dingir, and they too paralleled those of Nubia and Kemet. So we must get to the very origin of it. Because your information that you stated on the video that there is no connection between the Bible and Egypt is an extreme error. So let me proceed here. There's much information out there stating that there is no connection with Egypt in the Bible, or the lie that there is no relation between Africa and Sumerian culture, period. The origins of Kemet actually predate Sumeria. This is another lie that has been told and sold out there in network television and in the his storybooks and all these different facets of media, of mass media. These lies that have been generated, saying that ancient Sumerian culture predates Kemet when that's not the case. The origins of Kemet actually predate Sumeria. However, there has been a campaign of disinformation that attempts to place Mesopotamia as an older culture. And some even attempt to say that Sumeria is the progenitor or creator of Kemet, which is incorrect. Okay, there were Sumerians along with Canaanites and Syrians and other Asia, or as they would call them, Asiatics, that were in Kemet and had some input in Kemet. However, it was not created. Kemet was not created by Sumer. Okay, but however, yes, there are similarities, and simply because Egypt and Sumer were twin cities, both established by Nile Valley inhabitants. You said something about the 7 days of creation, 7 tablets of creation that you mentioned, as far as the original creation story of Genesis, and that it comes from Sumeria. That is one way to look at it. Yes, indeed it is. It is one way to look at it. But does that mean it's plagiarized? No, it doesn't, and you have not proved otherwise. Okay, you must understand that the Sumerians were a Cushitic Ethiopic stock of people that originally were the ones that created the Shumerian mythos. Okay, so that mythology in Shumeria, okay, falsely called Sumeria, was created by Nile Valley inhabitants, which were of an Ethiopic stock of people. So it is all connected and related. Kemet and Sumeria were basically twin cities. And there were also Sumerian Hebrews. You didn't touch on that. You didn't touch on the Hebrew connection and the Hebrews in Sumeria. You failed to mention that. Okay, so Sumeria was basically Eastern Ethiopia or Eastern Kush. It was a Cushitic branch of people, once again, that created that civilization. So you can turn your Bible to, or you can go online and go to Genesis chapter 10. Okay, Genesis chapter 10, verse 22 through 25. Okay. And in that verse, you see the name Arphaxad. Okay, that's another name for Chaldea. Okay, and that is the ancestor of Eber. We see a name in there within that chapter. We see the name Eber or Ibri. Okay, and Eber, the name Eber has a relation to the Igbos of Nigeria. Okay, so we know that the original people of the Sumerian Mesopotamian region were of a Cushitic stock. So one must stop looking at Sumeria, okay, like it had no relation to the Egyptians, no relation to the Hebrews, and especially that it had no relation to the continent that we know today of as Africa, and when it actually did. Hebrew, even the name Hebrew, we can trace to the Igbos of Nigeria. Okay, the Igbos of Nigeria are original Hebrews, meaning that they are children of Eber. Okay, the word Hebrew is actually a compound originating from the names Eber. Okay, the Igbos, original Hebrews of Nigeria, and the name Eu. And there was a tribe in Nigeria called the Eu. And when tracing that historical lineage, we can see that they once lived in ancient Egypt. Okay, interestingly, very interestingly, this is where the very word Jew comes from. It comes from that group of people, that tribe called the Eu, and we can trace back their roots and origins even to Nigeria. So you have a tribe of people in Nigeria today that are known as the Eu. So we must get to the very root and origin, you understand, to reveal the truth. Now I ask you how the Torah or Orit is a so-called plagiarization of Sumerian texts when the author of the Bible, Moses or Muse, was in Egypt. You understand? And you're telling me that it doesn't have any, that the Bible doesn't have any relation to Egypt. How does this make sense when Moses or Muse, okay, was in Egypt? Okay, also remember that Abraham was from the Sumerian Chaldean region. So we know that there were Sumerians along with Canaanites and others in Egypt. Now, this is where I'm going to show and prove to you that there is a relation with, to the Bible and Egypt. Okay, turn to Acts chapter 7, verse 22. Okay, the book of Acts chapter 7, verse 22. Okay, and let's read it. This verse here shows and proves that Moses didn't plagiarize anything from Sumeria. Okay, now what does it bear witness to? Let's read it. Okay, what does it say, Oahspe101? What does it say? Okay, it says, and Moses was learned in all the wisdom of the Egyptians. Okay, in the Metshaf Qidus of His Majesty, okay, which you claim is a false book, okay, it says that Moses was learned in all the wisdom of the Egypts. Okay, the Egypts. He was learned in all the wisdom of the Egypts, meaning that Moses was learned in all the wisdom of Upper and Lower Egypt. Okay, not just Lower Egypt of the around the Mediterranean with the Great Pyramids. However, Kemet and Cush, or Ethiopia in its ancient context, okay, and was mighty in words and in deeds. Okay, Moses was learned in all the wisdom of the Egypts, okay, and was mighty in words and in deeds. So this totally contradicts your false claims that the Bible and Egypt has nothing to do with one another. You know, so even though there are parallels to the Shumerian Tablets, does not mean that it was plagiarized whatsoever. Okay, when we delve into the mysteries and true symbolism of the Bible, one can witness that what Acts 7:22 is saying is right and exact, is in relation to Moses being learnt in all the wisdom of the Egypts, Upper and Lower Egypt. And for the record, no, these are not demonic fallen angels where I get the original scriptures from. Okay? And furthermore, His Majesty is Christ in His kingly character, is the conquering line of the tribe of Yehuda or Judah that descends from the Davidic Solomonic kingship. And if you knew that the roots of that kingship go back even further, you know, you would have more comprehension and understanding, and you wouldn't be in such ignorance. Okay? And you would not have made that blasphemous claim that you did in saying that His Majesty's Metshaf Qidus is false. I mean, how could the Metshaf Qidus be false? I mean, come on. And speaking of the Trinity, you know, I don't know who told you that the original concept of the Trinity is false. However, I strongly urge you to go do your homework on that and ask for Jah's guidance in doing so. Okay, now, number one, just a quick summary here. The Bible is not plagiarized from the Shumerian Tablets, being that the author of the Torah, or Rit, was learnt in all the wisdom of the Egypts, meaning Upper and Lower Egypt. Number two, Egypt and Israel knew of a transcendental, above creation and pre-existing one, the god Amun, the hidden one. Amun, or Amen, was really three gods in one. Ra, or Re, was his face, Ptah, his body, and Amun, his hidden identity. Okay, so Western falsehood has demonized the original meaning of the Trinity, not the false Western-minded concept of what the Trinity is. We do not go by what the false Western-minded concept assumes of what the Trinity is. Okay, it is 3 in 1. Hence, the triune God is one perfect God, 3 in 1. Okay, number 3, Bob Marley did exalt the name of Kedamawi Haile Selassie. Once again, I will say it. I will tell you again. Number 3, Bob Marley did exalt the name of Kedamawi Haile Selassie. And if you knew enough about him, you would even understand that he changed his name to Berhani Selassie, meaning the light of Selassie, or the light of the Trinity. Come on, man. And number 4, last but not least, the ancient Ethiopic language of Qidus, okay, the Ge'ez as they would call it, the Qidus, Amharic, is the pure language revealed in the book of Zephaniah, chapter 3, verse 9. So go do your homework. And in conclusion, I just want to say, may Jah forgive you for your blasphemous and erroneous claims that are totally false and inaccurate. And may the truth of the King of Kings, Kedamawi Haile Selassie, in and through his Christ, shine in the face of falsehood and deception. Praise Jah, Rastafari. Salam.